Before we had instruments of measurement, we had stories. Religious texts, myths, and oral traditions weren't just tales passed down, they were survival tools. They helped us understand pain and joy, love and loss. They gave form to our fears, voice to our hopes, and laid the first maps of what it means to be human. And psychology? Psychology is the study of us. Not just the mind, but the full arc of human becoming. How we grow, how we feel, and how we relate. Developmental psychology traces how we evolve across the lifespan, while cognitive psychology maps how we process the world. Personality psychology honors each of our uniqueness. And neuroscience shows how our brains wire for survival, for empathy, and for change. Together, these fields form a scientific story of humanity, one that parallels the role religion has long played to answer the timeless questions: who am I? Why do I suffer? And how do I heal? So let's not pit science and belief against one another. Let's ask them to meet. Not to debate, but to listen. Not to compete, but to collaborate. Jerome Bruner taught us that narrative is how we make meaning. We don't just live our lives, we story them. We build identity through memory, metaphor, and shared language. And neuroscience confirms this. Stories activate the brain's social circuits. They engage the regions responsible for empathy, moral reasoning, and self-reflection. So when we say stories matter, we're not just being poetic, we're being scientific. Emil Durkheim showed us that religion is a social glue. It binds communities through ritual, symbol, and shared myth. It teaches values and creates belonging. It helps us feel part of something larger than ourselves. Religion performs the same function psychology now measures. It regulates emotion, reinforces social norms, and offers frameworks for meaning and repair. Self-determination theory tells us that across cultures, humans share three core psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. These needs drive our motivation, our well-being, and our capacity to flourish. Paul Ekman's research revealed a striking pattern. Emotion often shows up in the face, and across cultures, it's recognized. That culture may shape the performance, but the capacity to feel, that's our shared inheritance. And neuroscience? Ochsner and Gross showed us how the prefrontal cortex can regulate the amygdala's reactivity. Or in other words, we can reframe threat. We can choose empathy over defensiveness. And we can shift from reflex to reflection. This isn't just eloquence, it's evidence. But we must learn how to use that wiring wisely. So what does this mean? It means that story and ritual supply meaning and belonging. That psychology identifies universal needs and mechanisms. And that neuroscience reveals that systems, like religion, enable regulation, perspective-taking, and learning. If our goal is to cultivate connection instead of rejection, we must commit to three things. First, teach psychological literacy as a civic skill, so we can learn self-regulation, attribution, and empathy before crisis. Let us understand our minds before they break. Second, honor religious and cultural diversity as meaningful narratives, while promoting practices that reduce harm and center shared human needs. Let belief be a bridge, not a barrier. Third, translate science into practice. This is an art. Let us normalize rituals of repair, strength-based framing, and results-aware attribution in our schools, our institutions, and our communities. Let these practices drive cultural change toward safety, trust, and collective resilience. This isn't about erasing differences. It's about reframing it as strengths that we bring to one another. If science tells us our needs and emotional systems are shared, then our beliefs can be many, so long as they coexist without harm or force. Imagine a culture where story and science inform one another, where religious meaning and scientific insight coexist, where people are equipped to meet their emotions before they're consumed by them, where schools and institutions teach empathy, regulation, and the capacity to hold multiple truths, where we stop rejecting difference and start connecting through what we share, where safety, belonging, meaning, and growth are not just ideals, but foundations we build together. This vision is practical, it's evidence-grounded, and it's urgent. It asks only that we push to see what connects us, and not what divides us. That we build institutions and rituals that sustain that connection. That we choose curiosity over certainty, compassion over critique, and unity over rejection. Because in the end, we are more alike than we are different. And our flourishing, our longevity, it depends on how well we learn to live with one another. Let this be our story, let this be our science, and let this be our shared truth. That one day, science and religion will walk side by side, not as rivals, but as allies. That emotional literacy will be taught as fluently as scripture. That empathy will be practiced as faithfully as prayer. And that we will stop asking who is right and start asking what allows us to grow together. That we will build a world where connection is the baseline, where difference is honored, and where every human being is seen, known, and safe. I have a dream, and I believe it begins with us.